Dear students, welcome to my channel BK Pai's Essence of Medical Biochemistry. We are going to start with the chemistry of carbohydrates. At the end of this session, you should be able to define carbohydrate, you should know the biomedical importance of carbohydrate and classify carbohydrate. So what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are most abundant organic molecules in nature and they are having a general formula CnH2O n times. But whether all compounds satisfying CnH2O n times are carbohydrates? No. For example, acetic acid. Acetic acid CH3COOH satisfies the general formula CnH2O n time, but it's not a carbohydrate. And certain compounds doesn't satisfy the general formula CnH2O n times, but they are carbohydrate. So we should have a proper definition for carbohydrate. So how will you define carbohydrate? Carbohydrates are defined as aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohols. So again I repeat, carbohydrates are defined as aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohols. What are the examples for carbohydrate? So whenever we say carbohydrate, so many things will come in our mind. For example, glucose, fructose, mannose, galactose, sucrose, maltose, lactose, starch, glycogen, cellulose, hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate. These are all examples, general examples for carbohydrates. I have written two structures here. You can see here. One is the structure of glucose, another one is the structure of fructose, having a molecular formula C6H12O6. So what is the definition says? Aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohol. Okay, so carbohydrates will be having functional group either aldehyde or ketone. Okay, aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohol. You can see here more than one hydroxyl group. That is why we call it as polyhydric alcohols. Okay, so this is the structure of glucose. This is the structure of fructose. So hope you understood the definition. So again I will define. Carbohydrates are defined as aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohols. Now let us discuss about the biomedical importance of carbohydrate. So whenever we say about carbohydrate, the first thing which comes to our mind is that they are going to give us energy. So the first point you have to remember is carbohydrates are main source of energy in our body. RBCs and brain cells mainly depends upon carbohydrate for energy. This carbohydrate can be stored, storage form of energy. So they can be stored as what? Stored as starch in plants and glycogen in animals. Third point, they are structural component of cell membrane. So we will be learning about the fluid mosaic model of structure of cell membrane. So glycoprotein, glycolipids. Then excess of carbohydrate can be converted to fat. Then they are structural basis of many organisms. For example, cellulose in plants, cell wall of microorganisms. So we will be discussing in detail about dietary fibers in nutrition. Then they are structural component of nucleic acids. So you know that nucleic acid means deoxyribonucleic acid, ribonucleic acid. Nucleic acids are nothing but polymers of nucleotides. So nucleotide means what? A base plus sugar plus phosphate. That sugar will be either ribose or deoxyribose. Then coming to the related disorders. So the first disorder, I think you might have heard about the first one, diabetes mellitus. Other disorders we are going to learn under carbohydrate metabolism, such as glycogen storage disorders, glycosuria, galactosemia, hereditary fructose intolerance, fructosuria, lactose intolerance. Those things we'll be discussing under the metabolism of carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are often referred to as saccharides. Saccharon means sugar. Depending upon the number of sugar units, carbohydrates are classified as monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. So you should define each and give example for each class. So first one is monosaccharide. So how will you define monosaccharides? Monosaccharides are the simplest sugar unit which cannot be further hydrolyzed. Monosaccharides are the simplest sugar unit which cannot be further hydrolyzed. What are the examples for monosaccharides? Glucose, fructose, galactose, mannose, ribose, ribulose, xylose, cellulose. So many examples. At least you should be able to write 3 to 4 examples. Next, disaccharides. How will you define disaccharides? Carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives 2 monosaccharide units, then we call them as disaccharides. Di means 2. Okay. So carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives 2 monosaccharides, then they are called as disaccharides. Example for disaccharides: maltose, lactose, sucrose. So these are all examples for disaccharides. Carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives 3 to 10 monosaccharide units, then we call them as oligosaccharides. Carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives 3 to 10 monosaccharide units, then we call them as oligosaccharides. For example, raffinose, stachose, verbascose. These are all examples for oligosaccharides. Now coming to polysaccharides. So what are poly? Poly means many. Carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives more than 10. More than 10. Carbohydrates which on hydrolysis gives more than 10 monosaccharides, then we call them as polysaccharides. Now these polysaccharides are further classified as homopolysaccharide and heteropolysaccharide. So what is homopolysaccharide means? If same sugar unit is repeated more than 10 times, then we call them as homopolysaccharide. For example, starch, glycogen, cellulose, inulin. These are all examples for homopolysaccharide. That means same sugar unit is repeated more than 10 times. For example, in starch, glucose unit is repeated more than 10 times. Glycogen, glucose unit is again repeated more than 10 times. Inulin, fructose is repeated more than 10 times. Now, next hetero. Hetero means what? Two different monosaccharides are repeated more than 10 times. Then we call them as heteropolysaccharide. For example, mucopolysaccharide, hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, dermatan sulfate, keratin sulfate, heparin. These are all examples for heteropolysaccharides. Here also monosaccharides again can be further classified based upon the functional group as aldoses and ketoses, but we are not going in detail about that. Just you can define and give common examples. So hope you have understood today's topic. So today we have covered about the definition for carbohydrate, biomedical importance for carbohydrate, and the classification of carbohydrate. So if you like my video, please share, subscribe and press the bell icon so that you will get notification for my videos. So next video we will be discussing about the properties of carbohydrate. Thank you.